CS greetings, CS goers. I'm Extremes, and this is a chat with a gentleman named Schizzy, who is here on my right. How's it going, Shiz?
I'm doing well in yourself.
Cool, man. Cool. Well, if anybody doesn't know, there was a bit of a situation, and he's going to talk about said situation with Ventus, your former team. You're currently with F3 at the moment. So, I mean, you guys did well. I mean, you didn't do well at Middle State, but you got some money at Middle State, right?
Rather, get some dank cash.
Yeah. So, from a cash point of view, it was what 60,000 rand.
For the whole team, yeah, split between five people, so we each end up with 12,000.
Cool. So, I mean, you played that tournament, and then subsequent to the tournament, you wanted to leave the team. So you set things in motion in there, as far as I understand it.
Yes, it was actually before Middle State. It was to be moved to another team that was also to attend Middle State. They didn't actually qualify, but it was a thing before Middle State that I had to finish out the season and then the LAN for them. So it was we all knew about it beforehand. It's just only after Middle State were things set in motion.
Okay. So, after middle stage, you guys obviously won the prize money. It takes a little while for the payments to come through. That sort of thing. That's always pretty much standard in this industry. It takes a little while. So, um, you'd then kind of try to secure your release from the team, and you're waiting for payments. And in this period, at some point, I mean, in the last couple of weeks, there was a post on Facebook from a community member basically having a go at Ventus and saying that they're not paying you guys your money. Is that an accurate description of what was transpiring there on the surface?
Yeah, what was basically happening behind the scenes is we were trying to communicate with Cyrus, and he was, to be fair, communicating back. With it, we would ask him if he had been paid, and he would say he'd be checking his bank account within a day or two. He would reply to us saying, "No, I haven't received the money yet." So he was communicating with us quite a bit during that time. It was only once. You could say when we started hearing about teams getting their money, somebody in DC had told me they had received the money. Flipside owner Anthony had said we had received our money. So then I asked Peter about it, and he was at some workshop or something. He wasn't home, so he said he wasn't able to check his bank account, which we said is fair. So I went a bit on my own to ask Johnny, antagonist from Metal State, if the payment had gone through, because I wanted to know, if what Peter tells me, I want to know if it's true or not, and I don't want to only after that go and figure it out. So Antagonist said he can only confirm if the payment had been done, which he then spoke to Peter about, and Peter gave him the same response saying he will check once he's back. Where everything sort of went south was, if I'm not mistaken, it was a Friday. It was the Friday that this all went down, where because Crick used to ask me, was one of the players, Chris Crick, asked me if I had received any money. So I said no. So I said I'd spoken to Peter, and he said he would tell me during the course of the week or so forth. So Crick actually said no, but he's on Steam now. So he messaged him, and that's sort of when everything went south, because that's when the first that we heard of the gear, for the money sort of thing came up, where he said, return the gear, and then we can talk about the payments. Obviously, I was on TeamSpeak with him. Hearing that, I picked up the phone, and then I went to phone him about it, saying, what he's doing is wrong, because entirely I felt it was very much wrong. Though from his point of view, it's very much arguably from both sides. From him, he could be like, "But I want my gear back first before I release the money to you," which is fair to a point. That you want to secure your assets before you just give out your bargaining chip. But in matter of fact, it's only me who prematurely terminated my contract. Me doing the exit process of I said I want to leave, and he said yes. So only according to the contract, I would have to pay for the couriers and send my own gear, which I said I can do, but I could not afford it at that stage in time. I needed the Metal State money. Once I received the money, I am able to send it. that eventually was resolved by my mother's company. They offered to send it up on our behalf, which we did, and that's henceforth how I got my money.
Okay, so you have been paid now, eh?
We have been paid, yes. As far as I know, all of us. I'm not too sure on the man because he's he's not. I don't. He's not able to send it either. He was sort of in my predicament, so I don't know if somebody might have on his behalf sent it.
Did
But
you did you all return your gear, or was that kind of? I mean, you were saying now that you were the only player who prematurely ended your contract. So you were the only one who was actually obligated to return your gear because you didn't see through the full contract period. So were the other guys all required to do that as well?
the other guys were initially replaced with Maniac's team, or his new team, Maniac, Zip Zip, Defiant, those gents, Unreal and them. My dog, it's moving. So, so as far as I know, the contract, I never saw, well, I never read that part of the contract again because I knew what I had to do. So I never really revisited that part of the contract. But according to the part of the contract, it's either their couriers got paid or they actually keep the gear. So that was essentially the part which I was most upset about, was on their behalf. Probably shouldn't have been, but I was because obviously they're very good friends of mine, and I don't want to see my friends, essentially screwed over. So that was basically the lighting at the fire with the gear for money when we sort of raised our voices saying, no, but you actually owe us this money. And not just over the gear. Like, we will send the gear, but most of those players just being kicked from the organization out of the blue definitely didn't bode well with the players. So they didn't trust Cyrus, and I can completely see that from their point of view.
Is there, from your guys' point of view, were there things that Cyrus did in the past that made you guys feel like you couldn't trust him?
Not essentially. Cyrus himself is very bad at communicating. Like, he's got a good heart. Like, there is no doubt about that. The guy is very actually generous in person, and I think a lot of people can really boast about that. Very generous in person, but how he does things is very unethical. Sometimes we just obviously from the stories of the community that we hear and things like that, and past teams. As I found out, luckily we were able to get our Ventus hats for free. I was actually speaking to a player, an ex-player from Ventus about a year back saying, when they were in Ventus, they actually had to pay for all these things. So it's like he's learned, if that makes sense. I feel like this is going to be a learning situation for him as well. I think it was mainly when we actually initially wanted the gear. We were first in Ventus told by one of the managers there that we generally be able to pick our gear. It had to. We just knew it would have been better than the Ventus Red team. At the end of the day, we actually got gear. If you in total value was less than Ventus Red. It wasn't even Corsair's latest keyboards or anything. So we were pretty much worried from that point of view. We didn't know what he said if he would actually follow through with it. So from a player's point of view, we were a bit not scared, but we kept aware of the situation.
So the things that were said about him by community figures, that sort of thing, gave you guys a little bit of pause, thinking, "Hey, we've got to actually be careful around this dude."
Yes, and also initially taking the contract to a lawyer, and the lawyer said, this is a very bad contract, and which we thought was quite weird because I had gone from WOG's contract to Divine, which didn't have a contract, to Ventus. So I had an idea of what the WOG contract was, and that's a contract that holds proper standards and things like that. So seeing the Ventus one was a bit of a 2 or 3 pages, it was just very odd from a proper big contract with big sponsors to, which is also a very large sponsor like Corsair, to a 3-page contract. It was a bit off. Didn't feel comfortable.
Sure.
But we had to sign it.
So the way that the information came out, I mean, it went on Facebook. There was a bit of a Spanish Inquisition style lynch mob, pitchforks, everything were out. And I can see why, because I mean, the way it was said, it was quite sort of incendiary. It was like fuel on the fire sort of approach, which is fine sometimes. Definitely, to me, it looks like Peter could have done things a lot better. Um, do you feel that the way that came out was fair to Peter, or did you feel that it's kind of what he deserved? Or I mean, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. You tell me. What did
Mm.
you think?
Um, it's sort of you're almost torn between the two because being Peter and dealing with him, he doesn't. He will actually do something under pressure. Once you place pressure on him, he does something. But if you don't add any pressure to him, he'll sit back and basically ride it out as long as possible to the last minute. He procrastinates it unless somebody does pressure to him. So behind the scenes, us putting pressure on him to basically just communicate with us to try and sort this out didn't bode well. So when I had mentioned it to the community member and he had placed it on Facebook, it was almost like a little bit of a smug sort of thing, like maybe something will happen. But then obviously people not knowing the full story, comments start coming out and people start fighting with one another. And as somebody who knows what's happening, you want to comment on it, but you're just going to add fuel to the fire. And it was super heated, and none of us wanted to say anything. The only time we spoke was in private, but we didn't want to put anything on Facebook. We didn't want to say anything. And I myself, because I can be quite a childish person, I did say some things at some points, which some statements I actually did end up deleting because it was out of childishness and rage. I was super upset that Friday. I was very mad. I just put down the phone with Peter after being quite heated on the phone, very angry with him. So even now, just thinking back, it's still a bit torn about it because at the same time, it's like if that didn't happen, I feel nothing at this point would still be resolved from it.
So something good
The
came out of it.
something did come out of it, but at the same time, a lot of backlash. Obviously,
Hmm.
it's it's obviously not what you want to do is put everything public, but maybe that was actually needed to resolve this as quickly as possible, putting pressure on both parties with the public eye, wondering, okay, what's happening next? A bit of
Yeah.
days in our life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's been two very like extreme viewpoints that have come out of this. Is like the initial thing with the Facebook post was okay. Well, let's set Peter on fire and throw him in a vat of oil, or something. I mean, it's just like towards that level of anger towards him. And then there was Congo who did the video and the article where it kind of seemed that people then started going. And I mean, it's not what Carl said. It's just
Mm,
I think his editor put like a little addendum on the article that said, from his point of view, he doesn't think it's that much of a story. I mean, that was his sort of opinion, Gavin. And, he was kind of saying, oh, Gear has to go back and he would do the same thing, sort of thing. And then people started taking that sort of viewpoint as well, which, of course, anybody's allowed to have the viewpoint. I don't think there's any
of
wrong
course.
viewpoint here, but um, do you think that the what the actual truth is? To me, looking at what you said, it almost feels like it's somewhere in between those two extremes. Or, I mean, is it just too far left on the one and too far right on the other to be the truth? Or
I feel if we're talking about this Facebook sort of thing, I feel people were just chirping in against Ventus without knowing the full story because it's just Ventus. Carl reached out to me and I spoke to him and we had discussed and debated. And the thing is, he was very neutral about it.
yeah, he
And
was
of course, he's
admirably neutral in his approach.
which is very much fair because from obviously from our point of view, we think we're right, and from Ventus' point of view, they feel they're right. So you need that middle ground on people making their own opinion and their own minds up, not just the player saying no they're wrong and like okay now you need to believe us. The whole story is actually quite how can I say basic, but it's just blown up due to timelines and events just being mixed muddled. The truth is how it should have actually gone is Schizzy terminate his contract, send Gear back, get money. Crucial and them were kicked. They were removed from the Ventus lineup to make space for Maniac and them. Their couriers should have been paid, sent, got their money. That's the problem solved in a heartbeat. There's no more debate on who's right and who's wrong. That's why we're upset because we had to pressure it so much, the point where Chronic actually went and fetched the gear from Crucial, from Crick, Chris. So at the end, their careers were sort of paid for, if that makes sense, and they returned the gear. No problem. They had no problem giving anything back. The thing is, Crucial had the Strafe keyboard that was from Corsair, but he never even used it. He was using his K70 he had before. The only thing he was using was his headsets, and he had no problem in purchasing new ones or anything like that. So it was never, we were never in the problem of we're not going to give the gear back. It's just the way it had to happen, the process. We felt the process was being so delayed to the point where pressure was put on Peter, that he eventually got somebody to go and fetch it. So I know Peter lives in Cape Town, so does Enigma. So as far as I can see a correlation, Enigma will probably end up dropping it off at his house if he hasn't already. I'm actually not too sure about that. The man, that is completely unaware of the situation between them. So I have no idea if he has given his gear back yet or not.
Okay, but in general, the situation is sorted out to your satisfaction for you. The other guys, there's a couple of details. Are they, have they all given their gear back or whatever? But in general, it's pretty much over. Yeah.
I really hope so. I really hope so. At the looks of it, we're not in communication anymore. Well, not because we just don't speak. Though it seems the whole situation is done and dusted. Crick has his money, Enigma has his money, Crucial has his money. It's the only person I'm unaware of is the man. I haven't spoken to him about it since. But I think it's sorted out because he's playing ESEA, so I think it's all sorted now.
So he's probably feeling good. Okay, well, it sounds to me like the situation is resolved. It really was to me looking. I mean, I try to stay out of it. Honestly, I was aware of it. You had told me, but you also said to me you'd like me to stay away from saying anything. So I did, and I'm glad that it got resolved. It's just a shame that it got as heated as it did. But also, as you said, at the same time, maybe if it hadn't, things wouldn't have been sorted out. So I think there's lessons for everybody to learn here. But I'm not going to say who needs to learn what because I'm not going to say anything. It's not up
I
to me to
probably
say.
need to learn to stay off social media when I'm mad because over that day I was so mad.
That's probably a good life lesson for everybody, bro.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, I'm so thankful Congo Carl actually messaged me saying, "Dude, you should probably really take that off because it's pretty heated." He said it in a much nicer way. So yeah, and that prompted me to think, you know what, you're right.
Well, props to Carl. I mean, he's a good gent, and he really did a very good job with the article and the video. So I think that also did a lot to stop it from getting out of control. Because I think if it gets too far past the point of anger and whatever, and it starts to get to the point where it's just going to cause the dude to dig his heels in more than it does a lot of harm. So I think props to Carl for coming out with something that was really well considered. But in general, I mean, I'm from my perspective, I'm sorry that it got to this, but I'm glad that you guys are sorted because that's the most important thing. I mean, if you've done the work, you need to get paid, and you did. So we're good. Just quickly before we cut this off, what are the plans for Schizzy at the moment? You're in Flipside. How's that going?
It's going really well, and obviously the very controversial topic of Mistem.
Oh well, no, don't worry. I'm going to do another video on that. We won't talk about that now.
No, but it looks really bright. We played arena. Now that was obviously for some people, as in Gareth and ADM, probably one of the heavy, very officials. Adam does really well under pressure. Fun fact. He's such a troll, but he's actually seriously good at the game and knows quite a bit about it. It was only Gareth missed him. When he gets a lot of pressure on him, he doesn't perform too well, and that's due to a heavy lack of experience. So we're going to be beating that into him the following week. We actually took a break this weekend. James went away for the weekend and so forth, so we could all just relax. But as in team cohesion, like there was a lot of internal problems with me and Ventus as a team. Not as on a friends basis. As friends, we all get along super well.
It's
But
just
I guess when
on
we
the field of play, so to speak.
yeah, then it's like we become all sort of different people. We're nitpicking at each other. We actually end up becoming quite toxic to one another, which is something that was quite funny because if you join the TeamSpeak channel with us, we're always laughing, and then when we're playing, it's just so that's why I really like this Flipside team. We're getting 16-1 by BVD as usual, and we're all laughing still.
Business as usual.
We're losing to a team we feel like but we're getting landslided by a team we feel that we can sort of be on the same grasp with. We're still there. We're more focusing on the mental game and the communication at the moment than actual strats. I think we've only had one prac on one map at the moment, and that was just like the smoke, the smoke, the smoke. Yeah, yeah, okay, cool, let's do this one. But our defaults that we run, that's all from actually playing in game. That we're just like, okay, cool. Well, we see this seem to be working, so let's just keep this on. So the plan, the future's quite bright. I hope.
Well, I think so. I think you guys have got a nice mix of players. I'll definitely have a chat about Mistim and everything. But I did check with Ant. He's okay with me talking about it. So well,
Yeah, no,
let's see how the community reacts. But I think you guys have got a bright future with the team you got. So of course, you're playing with a slightly different lineup for ESL, so we'll still see you in that on the broadcasts. And then, of course, when Arena, I'm assuming you qualify, of course, when that happens, then maybe we'll see you there. So again, I think you got a great future, man, and I really appreciate your time here. Huh?
Thanks for actually giving me this time. Communication was quite heavy. None at all really this week because I've been quite busy since my father came down. So been spending time with him and doing a few things. So that's why the communication between me and you is like, you messaged me 2 days later. I reply.
Oh, no worries,
I
man.
apologize for that.
All good. I really appreciate it, man. So, anyway, guys, this has been myself, Extremes, with Schizzy, ex of Ventus, currently of F3, talking about the social media furor that happened recently. Thanks for joining us, guys. Cheers.